Okay, so what if I told you that the real meaning of the sentence you just heard wasn't actually, wasn't in the words themselves?
Hmm.
That underneath the sounds of the letters you see, there's this other hidden structure
Hmm.
holding the actual core idea.
Yeah, it sounds almost backward, right? But that's the really fascinating idea we're getting into today.
Huh.
It comes from the linguist Noam Chomsky, his pretty groundbreaking work on transformational generative grammar. The concept, deep structure.
Deep structure. Okay, let's try to unpack that a bit. So
Hmm.
the sources we looked at, they define it as this abstract kind of blueprint for a sentence.
Exactly, a blueprint. It holds the basic meaning, the relationships, like who is doing what to whom.
Right.
And that's before it gets turned into the actual words and the order we end up saying or writing. That final form, that's what Chomsky called surface structure.
Surface structure. Got it. So deep is the meaning, surface is the output.
Pretty much. Think of the deep structure as like the pure meaning engine. And Chomsky, well, he really brought this up to tackle a huge question.
Which was?
How can we humans possibly create and understand, basically an infinite number of new sentences we've never specifically heard before?
Yeah, that is a big one. We don't just parrot things back.
Exactly. It wasn't enough for him to just, describe the sentences we do use. He wanted to explain the mental machinery that lets us make any grammatically correct sentence.
Right, because we're always generating language.
Yeah.
And his idea, based on the sources, was that this ability, it comes from something innate, like a universal grammar baked into our brains.
Uh-huh. Like a kind of basic linguistic software we all share, fundamentally. And deep structure is a core piece of that puzzle. It's the underlying mental way we represent meaning.
Okay, so it's about seeing the core relationships stay the same, even if the sentences look totally different on the surface.
Precisely, yeah. And our deep dive really pulled out some classic examples that make this super clear.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Okay, look at these two from the material. John is easy to please,
Okay.
and John is eager to please. Surface-wise, they look almost identical, just one word difference.
Right, but think about the meaning, the deep structure. It's completely different.
How so?
Well, in John is easy to please, John is the one being pleased, right? He's the object. Someone else finds it easy to please him. But in John is eager to please, John is the one doing the pleasing. He's eager to please someone else. He's the subject of the action to please.
Wow, okay, so the deep roles are totally flipped.
Totally flip, even though the sentences look so similar.
And then you get the flip side of that coin, right? Like, the dog bit the man,
Classic example.
and the man was bitten by the dog.
Yeah.
Now, those look pretty different on the surface. Different word order, active versus passive.
Yeah, very different surface forms. But at that depth level, the deep structure level,
Yeah.
they represent the exact same core event. Meaning the dog is the agent, the one doing the biting, and the man is the patient, the one receiving the bite. Our brain gets that single underlying meaning and knows how to generate these different surface versions.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about ambiguity? The sources mentioned that too, how deep structure helps explain it, like that famous one.
Oh, flying planes can be dangerous.
Right, one sentence on the surface.
But it actually maps onto at least two different deep structures, two different underlying meanings.
Which are?
Well, one meaning is that the activity of flying planes is dangerous. Like, it is dangerous to fly planes.
Okay.
The other meaning is that the planes themselves, the ones that fly, are dangerous objects. Like, planes that are currently flying can be dangerous.
I see. So the single surface form hides multiple possible deep meanings.
Exactly. The ambiguity comes from that mismatch. One surface, multiple deep possibilities.
So, stepping back then, what's the big deal? What's the significance of all this for, understanding language, understanding our minds?
Well, the sources really emphasize this. Chomsky's idea, it caused a massive shift in linguistics, a huge one.
How so?
Instead of just sort of cataloging the word patterns we see, the surface structure, the field really started digging into the mental architecture, the cognitive processes behind those patterns, the stuff that generates them.
So moving from description to explanation.
Precisely. It reframed language not just as like observable behavior, but as this incredible window into how the human mind is structured, how it works. And that had huge ripple effects into psychology, cognitive science.
Yeah, you can see how it would. And bringing it back to you listening right now, it kind of shows that so much of what you do effortlessly with language every single day, understanding, speaking, it depends on these really complex subconscious mental blueprints,
Mm.
these deep structures and the rules that manipulate them that you're not even aware you're using.
Absolutely. Which I think leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to chew on, doesn't it?
Oh,
Well, if language, something so basic to how we think and interact, how we make sense of everything, is shaped by these hidden mental structures we don't consciously control or even access, what could that mean for how our minds handle, all the other kinds of information we deal with, other experiences? How is that stuff organized underneath the surface?